What's up, people? I'm back for another video. Sorry I didn't do this one yesterday. Fell asleep kind of early, but figured why not do this one. So I'm basically going to be doing two videos today. I'm doing this one right now, and then probably really later tonight, I'll be talking about my defense of Jurassic Park: The Lost World. But right now, I'll be talking about Across the Spider-Verse. So I guess I'll set aside really quick what I think of the first one, but also just kind of my thing with Miles because y'all know if you follow me long enough or you follow me on Twitter, I've said it repeatedly. I do not like Miles. I've never been a Miles fan, but also I'm not a Ben Riley fan either. I'm just not a fan of variants of characters, and it's weird because I love Shattered Dimensions, so love that game. But to me, Spider-Man is Peter Parker. Peter Parker made the legacy of Spider-Man. And that's just how it is for me. It's the same with Batman. It's the same with Superman. Those characters built the legacy. So, and I don't know. Miles in the comics is just terrible. And basically what they're doing in the comics now with him is, let's just give him a bunch of random powers. Like, you can make a lightning sword somehow that's spider related somehow. Or let's turn him into fucking Thor. Or turn him into every fucking character. I think there's even one where he becomes Wolverine. It's like, they don't know what to do with him. But I will say this. Putting aside that, this version of Miles, at least between the first one and then this one, which I guess I'll go into the first one really quick. Into the Spider-Verse, it was fine, but I definitely thought it was heavily overrated. I thought, when I was hearing people saying best Spider-Man movie, I'm like, y'all are high. Nothing will top Spider-Man 2. Like, I'll give you, the one I can maybe give a pass to if you say, the first Spider-Man, the first Raimi one. But you cannot... Into the Spider-Verse is good animation, but that's it. What else is there about what makes it the greatest Spider-Man movie? And I think why... I think in general, these movies, mainly the second one, the first one I think is decent. And maybe I'll have a better reception to it maybe after watching the second one. But like I said, overall, I thought the first one was alright. I would like this one. I definitely. I know it's unpopular. I think more people like the first one more than this one, but I like this one more. I think at least the story was a bit tighter, and I think that's the one thing that I guess we'll getting into the movie now. Across the Spider-Verse basically picks up from where the first one left off. It's more. Because the first one was more of a Miles movie, whereas this one, it's definitely I would almost say conjoined, where it's Miles and Gwen, because there's a whole 20 to 30 minute section where it's just Gwen, which and I guess I'll go into her a little bit because I've never liked her character either, and it's more because I love the whole Gwen Stacy arc, where she died, it ends up with her dying. Now it's Peter's biggest to him, that's his biggest failure. And I think that was such an amazing storyline, and it just undoes it when you just bring her back and you just had to make her a spider. And I think why this movie works for me, or I guess I'll just kind of combine them, is that it's an Elseworld story. Going in, okay, this isn't this is an actual Spider-Man. This is an Elseworlds kind of thing. So I think that's why it doesn't bother me, and I almost can kind of separate it. So... Because I'm going to be honest, the animation is great. I think that's easily the best thing about this movie. And the first one too, but definitely this one. It's some of the animation, how they're able to do hybrid, had regular CGI animation, but then there are points where they almost made it look like a comic book, actual comic art, where I'm like, okay, that's amazing. And just the different animations and the different Earths or at least a couple different Earths that we see. So Miles, Gwen's arc basically in this one is because in her universe, Peter, like we all know, doesn't become Spider-Man. He becomes Lizard, and she basically inadvertently kills him. And Spider-Gwen, I know some people call her Ghost Spider, but I've just been calling her Spider-Gwen forever, so I just kind of call her that. So her dad is basically been hunting Spider-Gwen since, because she, he thinks she did it. He doesn't know that his daughter Gwen is actually her. Then one night while fighting a different universe Vulture, this is where we get Spider-Man 2099 and Jessica Drew, which I'm gonna say Jessica Drew, Spider Woman is easily my probably. If I had to say one negative, I have a couple negatives, but in terms of character, she's one. I found her annoying. I get the idea she was supposed to be like a motherly figure in a way to Gwen, but I just found her unlikable. And and yeah, we could start with the whole swap thing. I saw a good comment where basically someone said she's basically Misty Knight with spider powers, and in a way she fucking is. Like, that's a fucked up thing. If that was Misty Knight, that'd be cool, but no, we have to swap. But that's actually not even my biggest problem. The whole her riding around pregnant thing is stupid. I found it dumb in the comics. I think it's dumb here, but at least in the movie, they don't have her fight much. Largely, it's mainly Miguel kind of doing the fighting. And even in the chase, she's not, like, actually getting in the action. So I can almost give it a pass. I still found her kind of annoying in the movie. But she's not in the movie a lot. She's in, like, in throughout, but she's not in a lot. So Gwen gets accepted in this basically secret society of spiders, and they have this, like, wrist thing that can, like, basically transport them to other Earths. So then we catch up with Miles, and this is where we get basically our villain of the movie, Spot, who he's an unknown Spider-Man villain. A lot of people don't know. Even I kind of didn't know until I heard this was coming out. But I did like him. I liked how you do kind of starts off. He's kind of a joke. You know, he's falling through his portals. He doesn't really know his power, but then throughout the film later and later on, he gets more and more psychotic. It's great. So Spider-Man fights him, and this is where Gwen then goes to Miguel's world to act like she's basically acting like she wants to, getting back with Miles, getting to talk, reconnecting again, but she's actually there to follow Spot. And then Miles ends up following her back because throughout, basically she's told to never see Miles again. So she leaves. Miles jumps in the port, and this is where we see Spider India, who actually I was gonna think was gonna be kind of cringe. I did not like the suit when they first announced it, and I think they even kind of announced that character kind of cringy. But in the actual movie, he's fucking cool. I actually found him fun. The other Spider I found annoying was Hovey or Spider Punk. He was obnoxious, and it's not just because he's a fucking commie, but whatever. That's not my only problem with him. And I know some people could say it's like them almost riffing on that, but that's actually not even really why. I just found him annoying. I never liked, even in the comics, I didn't really like the whole Spider Punk thing. I'm like, you're Spider-Man with fucking look that looks punk. Okay. But then Miles goes to the basically I'll just call it the Spider-Verse. And then this is where we get the reveal that canon events have to happen. And which is an interesting one, because I know some people, I've heard some criticism against it. I'm fine with it, but I'm only fine with it until they either fuck it up in the next one. I think that's kind of where I'm at, because I can see the negatives though, like, because I don't think Peter would ever do that either. Like, Peter would just let Uncle Ben. I don't know. I can see that argument, but I like I said, I'm fine with it for now, and because I'm pretty sure they're gonna probably talk about it more in the next one. But I'm gonna try to speed this up a little bit because I don't want to go through the whole movie before I actually start going through the whole movie. And then we get an awesome chase scene because Miles is trying to get back to his world, and we get a chase scene between him and all the Spider-Men, which I love the little deep cuts. Like, we got a shot of, like, I think Spider-Man and I think it's Spider-Man from Spider-Man and His Amazing Friends. Like, they even had that. They had the newer, spectacular Spider-Man anime, and they actually did it in the animation style. They even did Lego Spider-Man. Like, they did some deep cuts with some of the Spider-Men you saw. So I thought that was cool, and we got a cool little chase scene, which, the animation was beautiful, specifically for that scene. Then I'll just speed it up. Miles gets back to his world, but it turns out it's actually not his world, because they've been trying to make him, his whole arc is that he wants to go on his own. I'm hoping that's actually what they're going to do, is that he doesn't want to be Spider-Man. He wants to build his own legacy. If that's what they're actually building up to, this is easily the best version of Miles, because I've not liked Miles anywhere else. I, so far, don't even really like him in the PS4 game. He seems kind of boring. I almost feel like he doesn't even... personally, PS4 Spider-Man, that's like early years... Not early years, but that's like Spider-Man in his prime, I don't really like the idea of Miles being around yet. You know, it'd be one thing if he was around a bit later, but it'd be one thing if he was a character, but he wasn't an actual spider yet. But it's like, I feel like it's a little soon to make him a spider, but whatever. Side point. But overall, I definitely like this movie. I'm surprisingly liked it. I didn't think I would, but I did. And I didn't really like Miguel O'Hara's performance, but it really does depend. Not performance. I didn't like his portrayal because we were getting basically I'll just reveal that basically they're trying to go for like the Spider-Man have questionable, you know, decisions too, and I get that's what they're going for, but Miguel was full on villain and like that the chase. Some of the things he was saying to Miles is a villain thing. Like he was straight up just saying villain shit, and it was a little. Or when he sent Gwen back, that felt like a villain moment. And I guess it does depend on the next one, because the next one could save it. A friend of mine, Mara, who also saw this movie, told me, you know, maybe maybe the next one will fix it. So we'll see. And like, because as of right now, I don't know. I think they went a little far. You could have had him make questionable decisions, but you didn't have to make him a villain. He was straight up a villain in some scenes, man. That scene was going at Miles and the faces he was making, that's villain face to me. But overall, I love this movie. I definitely recommend it, and like I said, people can call me biased, and I don't fucking like Miles, but I still think it's an objectively good movie. It is. You had some good fight scenes. I like a lot of the deep cuts. They don't feel like just member berries either. They don't feel like, oh, we're just doing this to get member berries. They actually feel earned. Also, definitely the better version of Spider-Gwen. Gwen I actually don't mind in this movie. Yeah, that's really, like, Spider-India, surprisingly, is actually really funny. I found him pretty entertaining. And, yeah, I just think it was an awesome flick. I just putting aside my dislike of Miles, like, yeah. I'm interested in the next one, but some things I am hearing, like the third one, they're going to maybe talking about what the commentary on people who don't like Miles, basically, and saying he shouldn't be Spider-Man. That is giving me a little bit of pause, because it's like, God damn it, can you fuckers just make a good movie? And you did. And granted, there is some weird shit in there, this movie, but you kind of got to really look. And I don't feel like the whole movie was trying to be, well, there is some weird shit in it. I'm not going to say there isn't, but overall, I wouldn't say. But yeah, this third one's giving me a little bit of pause when you're saying things like that. And basically, so you can make it a commentary on people who don't think Miles should be Spider-Man. Wham! People have an opinion. So, it's stupid. But I might still see the third one. We'll see. But out of 10, I give this one an 8. I probably would watch it again. I don't know if I'd go out of my way to watch it again, but I would. And like I said, I can accept it because I do think it's like, inherently it's an Elseworld story. It's not, this isn't mainstream Spider-Man or mainline Spider-Man, So, but later tonight, Lost World, In Defense of Lost World. I can't wait to do that because I've always loved that movie. I think it's almost as good. I personally think it's almost as good as the first one. I think, when I see people try to say JP3 is better, I'm like, you're fucking high. Lost World is so good. I think it gets really bagged on, and I don't understand why. So I'll be talking about that a little bit later. But yeah, let's get into Spider-Verse. So yeah, we basically kind of get back into Gwen, and I do like some of the scenes like where Gwen is Gwen, but they're in the window or a mirror or anything she looks into. It's Spider-Gwen looking back, like her in the costume. I thought that shit was pretty cool. So, because her dad doesn't know. And her dad is like vehemently hunting for Spider-Gwen, because we find out that Peter in this universe becomes the Lizard, and he ends up dying during the fight with Spider-Gwen. And, her dad walks in and, thinks Spider-Gwen killed him. So he's on the hunt for her. Then she hears that a vulture man, basically this vulture, different universe vulture, attacks this place, and she goes, I think it's like a museum. Yeah, it's a museum. And Spider-Gwen goes to try to stop him. And I'll say this. They could have easily made, like, Spider-Gwen a Mary Sue. She's not. She gets beat up a lot during the fights. She has some, a little bit of a, I don't want to say fucked up, but, like, distant relationship with her dad. But she's not, like, she's definitely not a Mary Sue. I would argue, maybe in the first one, some scenes she was a bit perfect, but this one, arguably, no. She's not a Mary Sue at all. She gets beat up a lot, especially during this Vulture fight. She had to get bailed out by Miguel O'Hara and Spider-Woman. So, we get a cool fight scene with them. I actually thought Miguel, I was fine with him in this scene. He's probably, if I had to say the best Spider-Man 2099 scene, it's definitely this one for me, because he actually was the only time I felt like he felt like a hero. A little bit when he's talking with Miles, but then just further and further, and I'll get to that. So initially, Miguel is hesitant on taking Gwen, because Gwen, unfortunately, her dad walks in and sees her, and walks in on Spider-Gwen, and she takes off the mask to show it's her. And her dad basically still tries to arrest her. Spider-Man, Miguel basically saves her and basically lets her in the club in the secret spider universe that protects like the different universes. So yeah, they're basically like a secret legion of spiders. So, then this is where we get to Miles and kind of what he's got going on, and his parents are having a meeting. I actually found this scene genuinely entertaining when his parents are having a meeting with like the principal or something, and Miles is having to fight Spot. And Spot is a great villain because it's interesting. Like I said, he starts off kind of a joke, like, because Miles calls him a villain of the week, and that's kind of what he starts off as, though. Like, he's kind of a joke. Like, he's fallen through his own portals and all this, and even the voice, like, he kind of doesn't seem like a bad guy. But then we get further and further, and I guess I know I'm jumping ahead, but I'll just say it here. We find out, because in that blast, where the spider, Specimen 42, Miles wasn't supposed to get bit. Apparently somebody else was supposed to get bit. But that spider got out, and in that accident, Spot, that's how he got that accident. So he kind of blames Miles for his life being ruined. So that kind of plot. And then, but yeah, throughout the film, though, later and later, especially when they get to the India part of the movie, he gets more and more, like, despicable, and you actually can see, like, God, he's actually a capable villain. He's actually pretty scary towards the end, dude. Like, they really did a good job with it. Like, slow build up. Because, yeah, you think he kind of starts off kind of a villain, a little bit of a joke. You know, you think you're not going to take him seriously, but yeah. So, yes, Miles kind of fights him throughout the city. And there's a scene, like, where you can kind of see him in the window while his parents are in the... And I actually like Miles' parents. I actually Miles' dad's genuinely a good father. Like, it is weird. Granted, it's not Disney, but it's just nice seeing, like, a good father in a movie where it's not just, you know, and a together family, you know, mom and dad are married, no weird, like, they have to always be separated, which I'm not against that. I'm not saying because those couples don't exist, but it is frustrating when it's constantly to always make the mom a separate, you have to make it a single mom all the fucking time, and it's always be a separated family. Like, it is nice just to have a family that's just together sometimes, you know? So, Miles manages to get back to the meeting, which I thought was pretty funny. And then later that night, he has like I guess some kind of party. And this is, he has a kind of an argument with his parents. And, you know, his arc, somewhat also his other arc, is he doesn't know if he wants to tell his parents he's Spider-Man. And there's a scene he almost does, but then he ends up, because he messes up the cake, because he was supposed to get cakes for the party, but they kind of got smashed during the fight with Spot. So he ends up getting brown. He goes back to his room, and this is where Gwen shows up, acting like, she's there to reconnect with Miles, but she's actually there to follow Spot. Because since he can go to different dimensions with the portals, they're kind of worried about that. So, I'll say this: Miles and Gwen have chemistry. They definitely do. Like every scene they're together, you can feel it. So I got to give them credit for that. Even though it's voice acting, I think they felt like they had a connection. It's believable. It didn't. I wasn't like cringing at any of their scenes or anything. So Gwen ends up following Spot, but unfortunately she doesn't make it back there in time because Spot's gone. And I love the sequence where you kind of see what happens to him, and because they get to his base, you kind of are seeing what he's doing in like this projector thing, kind of. So she ends up getting there too late because Spot had already. Because this is at this point Spot realizes his powers and he can actually go into like other worlds through the portals. Because I do like that. Like he's learning his powers throughout the film. It's kind of interesting to have a villain do that too, because we're so used to like the hero doing that. It's kind of cool to have the villain do it too. Like realizes his true power. Like wow, I can actually go. He can go into other universes. So. He ends up going to Spider India's world. After talking with Jessica and basically Gwen having this, I'll never come back to see Miles. Miles was there because he's his costume, he can turn invisible, which I'm still not a fan. I guess, but to me, Spider-Man, just in general, if you're gonna call Miles Spider-Man, I don't like the idea of having Spider-Man overly advanced tech like that. He's not Batman. He's not supposed to be Batman. It's fine for the movie. They had to have Miles not get seen, but whatever. It's a little pet peeve. It's just Spider-Man shouldn't have like a camo feature. If he had all this cool shit, I don't know. That's too high-techy for me for Spider-Man. Or a Spider-Man if we're going to call Miles Spider-Man, even though he is not. But so he ends up jumping in the portal because Gwen says bye, Miles, and she doesn't see him, right? So he ends up jumping in the portal. This is where we meet Spider India, who I surprisingly liked. Like the moment we met him, he was funny, and I love going through his story. And they didn't spend a long time either going through his origin. They kind of did it in like 2 seconds. You get a little him kind of talking about, oh, I saved these people and what I do for the city, and even goes through his like love life and all that. We also meet Hobie, which is Spider-Punk, which I'm going to be honest, I found annoying, personally. And I like Daniel Kaluuya. He's a good actor. It's just, I found him annoying. His character annoying as fuck in the movie. He's not in it a lot, though. It's just like Jessica Drew, so I found them annoying, but it's like they're barely in it, so. They have to try to stop Spot. We get kind of a cool chasing with them and Spot, but Spot, unfortunately, this is where he kind of realizes his true power, and he like turns black, and he can like go and he threatens Miles. And this scene was amazing, where he threatens Miles. I'm gonna go kill your family. I'm gonna make you. He doesn't say it in those words, but he says, "I'm gonna make you take everything from me, like you took everything from me." Really just. Like, that is like, he is fucking sinister here. He's like, okay. He's not that Spot we saw earlier in the movie. He's full on knows what he is now. So, they get called back, and this is where we basically see the Spider Universe, which I thought that was kind of cool. The different Spider-Men we see. Even like the Spider, granted it's a bit later, this is like in the big chase scene later. We get a Spider T-Rex, which I thought was pretty funny. The Spider car, which is from a comic. Or Spider Buggy. Not a car, it's Buggy. Like, the little deep cuts, man, I'm not gonna lie. And it didn't just feel like it's just there for member berries either. It wasn't just, yo, you remember this? You remember that? There's even a scene where, I think Miles or a character has, like, the first Spider-Man comic. Like, the iconic Spider-Man comic where he's carrying a lady, he has like the webs under his arms. That's that comic. like, I just love that. Like, the little Easter eggs that are placed here, and they're not member berries, because they could have gone the member berry route, which unfortunately a lot of things do. This, they don't feel like that. They actually feel like they're earned, and you're like, okay, that's cool. But also, it's the movie. I think it helps. I'm not inherently against, like, what, we all joke and call it member berries, but I'm not inherently against them. We want to do it right. You have to have substance in your story. When it's just nothing but member berries, which that's what I call it. That when it's hollow, because like, for example, we'll go to Star Wars. Oh, TIE fighter. Be happy that you guys see a TIE fighter like Darth Vader or something. When it's like, no, the story is shit. So there's no story there. When the story is bad, your member berries just are hollow. Or at least here, these Easter eggs. I do think there is a difference between Easter eggs and member berries. The Easter eggs in this actually add to the story. That too, they add to the story. They don't just feel like they're there just to be there. And this is where they go into canon events, because during the fight in India, Peter manages to save Major Singh, who's like the dad of Spider-India's girlfriend. He was supposed to die on that bridge, and apparently because of that, it causes like some kind of, paradox, and it's kind of starting to fall apart, that world. And Miguel goes into that you're not supposed to stop canon events, which I actually think is interesting. It's a way to add the trope of this person has to die so the hero can be made, kind of thing. But they did it in a way where it works. And this is where Peter comes into the Peter from the first movie, which I'm not a big fan of. I am not a fan of, like, the whole angry old man Peter from the last movie. He gets better by the end, but in this, I felt like he was too comedy. Like, he was almost ridiculous. Like, I got a Drinker, I think it was Drinker, who said, like, he was too joke. It was almost like you couldn't take him seriously. And I think my other pet peeve was he didn't have the fucking mask on the whole time. None of them did. It's one thing in a movie. It's annoying in live movies too, but at least there you're trying to show an actor's face. You don't have to do it in a cartoon. But other than that, I still felt like Peter had his moments. And I'll say I did like him a little bit more. I just thought he was a bit too on the ridiculous side at times. But then, because Miles refuses and wants to go back to his world, they lock him up, basically. And for a couple days, because his dad's supposed to die. Because Spot's basically going to go to his universe, basically try to kill his dad. That's what it seems like the plan. My beef with, and I guess this is really where my problem started with Miguel's character. He goes kind of villain. Like, I don't know, man. I just think, and I guess it depends on the next one, really. It really depends if the next one can fix that, and maybe by the next one, he redeems himself and kind of becomes a hero again. Because in this, he kind of stops being a hero and kind of goes to being a villain. I'll just jump ahead. Miles gets out, and we get this awesome chase scene, which I'll admit was great. All the Spider-Men getting him, and I even love that they don't even acknowledge him as Spider-Man in the movie, because they're like, Spider-Man's escaping, they're like, woo, and then they have to say Miles. Fucking great. But I just love, like, the chase, the animation. This is where you saw the Spider T-Rex. We got this is a little bit before the chase, but we saw the Spectacular Spider-Man, which I'll admit I didn't really watch. I think I watched like episode or two, and I didn't really like the animation. I didn't mind the Spider-Man design, but I thought everything else just didn't do it for me. But I heard from some people that it's decent, so I haven't watched all of it. I only watched like 1 or 2 episodes, I think. But it was cool that they had kind of like for everyone. I'm kind of can't wait till they do maybe 90s Spider-Man from the cartoon. That would be amazing. That'd be a deep cut. But yeah, we get like a big chase scene, and the animation for it was just so good. So I gotta say, like, they really did a good job with the animation. The music, I didn't mind. When it was just kind of like techno-y sound music. When they try to do like the rap stuff, it just nah. But like when it was just like the techno-y kind of beat thing, it worked. So Miles, this is where Miguel confronts Miles on a train, and this is where I felt like he was going way over villain. He's like the ways he's almost like choking Miles and saying, "You should have never been Spider-Man. You were never supposed." Like basically, kind of what Spot said in the earlier fight. He felt like a villain, and it definitely that felt like a commentary for sure on people who say he shouldn't be Spider-Man. I can see that. But that's not even my problem with it. Miguel just felt like a villain. It just, I think it was a bit much. I think if they toned it back, I think that's my thing. If they just toned it back, it probably wouldn't have bothered me as much. And I maybe wouldn't even be pointing this out. But it was just, I think they went overly villain almost in this part of it. So he manages to get away. Because he can camouflage, he gets past Ghost Spider, who and triggers the teleport machine. But she ends up, he gets cornered. Miguel even gets there, and they try to corner him, but she lets him go. And Miles thinks he's back home, but I'll just spoil it. Again, like I said, it's gonna be spoilers. I probably won't put spoiler review in the title now because I mean it's been out for over a week now. I could just spoil it now without putting like spoilers in the title. He gets back to he thinks it's his universe. His mom sees him, and before that, also or after that, Gwen gets sent back to her universe because she basically helped Miles in a way and didn't like her basically disagreeing with Miguel, so she gets sent back to her universe. Goes to her dad, who gets back home and just sees her dad, and then her dad actually sees her, and they actually have a conversation, and they basically reconcile. I thought this seems pretty awesome. Like, yeah, her dad made a very big mistake, obviously, but I do like that they let him get redeemed. Because I feel like if this was Disney, they would write him to just be a piece of shit the whole time. Or even have him, like, fuck her over. They go far. Like, they let him, like, okay, he made a fucked up mistake, but when he actually sees her again, and obviously not having her around, he's her dad ultimately, right? He's gonna ultimately be like, yeah, I'm your dad. Obviously I love you. So it's understandable that, like, when he finally sees her again, he's like, all right, I just gotta accept it, and that I'm happy they did that because they could have gone the other route, but yeah. So that happens, and she decides to kind of form her own kind of team to get Miles back because the universe Miles is in his. Because she even goes back to his house, and she has to get Miles back because she realizes also, okay, Miles actually is not here. Because the universe Miles gets in is a different universe where his uncle's still alive. There's no Spider-Man because Miles didn't become Spider-Man in this universe. And because he's trying to tell his mom, like, you think it's the moment where he's going to tell his mom that he's Spider-Man, and then he's like, wait, who's Spider-Man? I love that little detail, because that reveal, because you think, like, they do set it up, like, oh, he's going to finally tell her. I think he will tell her the next one, for sure. But yeah, they do the setup, and then, yeah, they reveal, like, no, this isn't your universe, because she's not married to Dad, she's married to his uncle, who was the Prowler, who I thought was a decent villain from the last film. But, he gets beat up and tied up, and this is where we get the reveal that the Prowler is Miles in this universe. So, then the film basically ends, Miguel and Jessica Drew arrive, and I'm assuming Earth 1610, that's Miles' universe. And Gwen gets a team of Spider Noir, Spider-Man, Peter Parker, I think, and like some other Spider-Man, like, Spider-Punk and like the ones you see throughout. They're there to help him, and that's how it ends. I know some people don't like it. I think this is one of those endings where, to be continued endings. I know for movies that's not a big, but cliffhanger, that's the word. I don't know why it took me forever to think of the name. Cliffhanger endings, but I think it works here. It doesn't feel abrupt. like it ends in a good way where it's still an ending. It's just, oh hey, we're gonna get ready for the next one. That's kind of what it felt like to me. It still had an ending. It's just, I do think Spot should have been involved maybe more in the final act. I think that'd be my only tweak. I would have maybe tweaked it where Spot maybe showed up at the spider place. And then, like, there should have been something. I do feel like Spot does kind of just disappear towards the end. But other than that, I enjoyed the movie. For what it was, the different animations in each dimension they were in. Actually, the way they made the multiverse work, and I'm not even a big fan of multiverse plots. Sometimes they're fine, but a lot of times I'm not a big fan of it. And they made it work here. I think even if you don't like Miles, I can say definitively, at least it's a good movie. You can almost look at it inherently as an Elseworld story, so you don't feel like, okay, this is main Spider-Man, so at least you can kind of have fun with it. I thought there were some solid action scenes. The music was pretty good. I do think Spot should have been maybe more involved towards the end. I do feel like he's kind of, once he leaves India, he does just kind of disappear. I think he has like one other scene after that, but yeah, he relatively just kind of disappears in the movie. In the end of the movie, I think he should have been involved in it more. And I get it, maybe they want to save it, and they wanted to focus on the Spider-Man problems, which I understand why they did it. It was a creative decision, probably. I'm not a big fan of how they did Miguel, but we got to see if maybe they'll fix it in the next one, and maybe if they do fix it in the next one, then I almost might take that criticism back. So we'll see. Gwen was good. I thought her portrayal was great. Miles was pretty good. I thought it was a good job, like the way they made the film focus on them. Maybe I would have cut down the film a bit. I didn't necessarily think it felt like 2 hours, but it didn't necessarily need to be 2 hours either. You could have trimmed it down to like an hour and 40 maybe. So, but I liked it. For what it was, I enjoyed it. This is definitely the only version of Miles that's good. There's even a scene where he's called himself Miles Morales. Like, he's almost trying to accept, like, I'm on my own. If they go that route, that could save it. Because that's always been my beef with Miles. Give him his own name. Stop giving him, like, he doesn't need to be Spider-Man. Even Batman Beyond, we call him Batman Beyond. He's not just Batman. On the show, they call him Batman, but largely, we call him Batman Beyond. That Terry version of Batman. He even has his own villains. Miles doesn't. A lot of his villains are literally just Spider Peter's villains. So that's my other beef. Ben O'Reilly. I said Ben O'Reilly. So I was thinking Bill O'Reilly. Jeez fucking Christ. Ben Riley was in this. And I'm not a big fan of the character, but I found him pretty funny in this. I know I've seen some people who are like big fans of the characters say that they kind of treated him like a joke. But for me, it didn't bother me. I found it pretty entertaining. I loved some of his dialogue. Like, this movie I genuinely laughed at, like, I'll be honest. And it didn't feel like Marvel humor, like Disney Marvel humor. Like, humor felt legit, When you can actually get me to even just chuckle. Maybe not, like, burst out laughing, but if you can just get me to chuckle a little bit, that I can give you points for that. I'll give the movie points for that. But overall, 8 out of 10. Let's say 9 out of 10 is a little bit high. 8 out of 10 movie. Definitely liked it. I may not rush to watch it again, but I'll definitely watch it again. For sure. I can definitely see kids loving this movie. Kids will definitely love it. So, it's even just for the animation. The animation is beautiful, like in the different animation, and some scenes where it looks like straight up out of a comic book. Like, they did a really good job with that. So, later, Lost World Defense, I'll be doing that. It'll probably be, I don't know what time, maybe like 9 or 10 or 11. It'll be like kind of late. But other than that, I'm going to talk to y'all later.